go into the meeting with the idea that you're going to meet somebody new, that it may be an opportunity to serve somebody.
What is up, our Legacy Ninjas? Hold on here. That's a change. Legacy Warriors, let's go make some noise. Let's go make some ruckus here. The power of a conversation can be such a unique thing. It's a matter of the type of conversations that you are having. If you're going deep, you can find new things, new perspectives. But if you're staying surface level, you're going to stay stuck. So tap into the conversations and go out there and make a big change by listening to other people. See if there's something that you're missing because of the power of conversations. With the conversation, if you want to be part of the conversation, there's actually a new platform, Podopolo, out there that you can actually go clips from the audio of the episode and share it with everybody else. So you can become part of that conversation. So Podopolo can be found on your app store. It's Podopolo. If you want a better listening experience when it comes to podcasts, go download it. Use the referral code 2NativeSons, the number 2 Native Sons all together. Enjoy the conversation. We love having you part of the conversation. Let's go out and make a ruckus, Legacy Warriors. What's up, our fellow Legacy Ninjas? Scott Brandt.
Patrick Murakami.
Coming in with Legacy Digging with 2 Native Sons. And it is one of those unique aspects when you have conversations with people and what can come out of those conversations if you are going about it the right way, I guess. I don't know. Because can some people start a conversation to try to turn it into some unnecessary evil potentially? I don't know.
So explain more what you mean by unnecessary evil, because I've definitely had conversations where it went in a different direction, and I was definitely befuddled.
I think it depends on the person's intention with the conversation, because you can really direct a conversation in the way you want it to go, especially if you're trying to get somebody to buy into your viewpoint and maybe they aren't very strong-willed or they aren't mentally strong to not get obliterated or end up getting manipulated into the conversation. And so I think that's where we're looking at is these conversations that you have. What's the intention of the conversation?
Yeah, I think that brings a whole point to it, but conversation is a life skill.
Mm-hmm.
And we're getting further and further away from it.
Yeah.
I was having this conversation the other day, and I was talking about how just little pageantries go away the longer you're in a relationship. And I'm not saying it has to be like a relationship with a partner, just the longer the relationship is in general. Yeah. Friendships, romantic, whatever. One of the things that I notice within my own marriage is that us, right? Me and my wife, is that we no longer have those little, I don't know, I guess honeymoon conversations.
Okay.
It's now a command and demand relationship.
Yeah, well, I think that also is just being mindful about the situation, the direction that things are going.
Sure, and there's a comfort level, right? Before it used to be like, hey, sweetie, I hope you're having a good day. Thinking of you. Hey, would you mind going to the store and picking up something for me? Oh, sure. No problem, babe. I got you, right? Now it's like, hey, I need you to go to the store and pick this up on your way home. What time are you going to be here, right? And again, there's a comfort level. Everybody kind of goes through that. But it is funny to watch the dynamic change.
Yeah.
And I think with business relationships and conversations, a lot of times you have some people who have those honeymoon things because they're new. And so they come to the conversation and you get one of two different perspectives. You get the one that basically is, hey, I'm dead set. I need to tell everybody about what I do. I'm taking as many meetings as possible. And then you get the other perspective where they're learning, they're absorbing. And so you don't know what's going to resonate with either one when somebody is new. I just know that you can tell very early on in the conversation if this is somebody very new. And that conversation could lead to months and years of a long-term partnership, relationship.
Yeah.
Could lead to some of your super fans that we've talked about, or your true fans, not your only fans.
Well, that could happen.
It could. Well, and some people may come for the intent too.
Oh, true. Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I think what is it that the focus is on, the attention, like you talked about,
Yeah.
that oftentimes will lead the conversation. I got to the point, and I think I shared this with you when I first started, was I was direct messaging, cold calling everybody that I knew,
Yeah.
everybody on my phone. And I can tell you how that went. I bet you can guess. And the conversation literally changed about 3 months in because I was not getting the results.
Mm.
But what I also realized is I had this flexibility to be able to pick and choose how I spent my time. So I began basically just catching up with people I hadn't talked to.
Mm.
I stopped talking about the business.
Yeah.
And I just started spending time investing into getting to know people again.
Yeah. But I think it's interesting because when we look at the idea of digging your legacy, you have to have the conversations. But I think it also comes down to the fact that people have the fear factor of not having the super in-depth questions or the conversations because they've been torn down. They've had other people that have tried to like get them away from their dreams, their visions. And then you also have some people that we know in the coaching realm that they're very linear, and it is like, if you're not here, you're not going to get here, which is a crazy thing when you think about it, especially in the coaching realm, because you are there just to guide somebody, be along with them on their journey, but they have to walk it. And so I think you can't shut somebody down, because if you think it's not going to work out because of what you've seen your past experiences, this person may be an outlier. And so if there is something there that they're trying to chase, support it, and maybe ask some questions to have that a little bit of the realistic approach, but don't go tear people down and say you can't do it because of your previous experiences, or you're looking at the conversation and it's like, okay, I've had this conversation before with somebody else. And that's the issue that we have when we have conversations with people a lot of times is, oh, here's the previous experience. This is going down the same road. So I know exactly what you need to hear. And it's like, you can't do that. Like, you have to ask the question, this person is this person. Everybody else is different. But we try to box everybody into the same box, which doesn't do anything for us.
We are creatures of comfort, but everybody tries to have this cookie cutter approach, one size fits all.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give a $2 million piece of advice here, right? And take this for what it's worth. It's been very successful for me, my business, but don't go in there with an agenda. Don't go into a meeting thinking that you're going to get an opportunity to pitch. Don't go in there thinking that this is a potential sale. Go into the meeting with the idea that you're going to meet somebody new, that it may be an opportunity to serve somebody. Because the minute that you start talking more than the other person in the conversation, you lose interest. That person is probably walking away saying, this is not a great conversation for me.
Yeah.
Because all you did was literally talk about yourself. If you go into the conversation and you find yourself not talking at all, you are going to walk away feeling like this was a waste of your time.
Yeah.
Okay. So what we talked about at the very beginning was conversation is an art. It is ebb and flow, just like waves crash and they come back out and come back in. The conversation needs to be the same exact way. And you have to find what it is, and you have to kind of tie it into what you're hearing. But if your intent is, hey, I'm going to pitch to you no matter what, and before you leave today, you will know what I do and how I do it, you lose. Right? If you go into this thinking, oh, well, I'm a coach, I'm this, and so you should listen to me because I can help you. You may or may not be able to help me. And in an hour, if a half hour conversation, if you rush the conversation, if you have to go, you probably didn't get a chance to really get to know somebody, right?
Yep.
And a lot of times, if you're talking for that 30 minutes, man, you already lost.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think it's interesting because if you go in potentially with the idea that you might not be able to help this person, it puts it in a different light. But I think how many people, because if you bring that to the table and you're having a conversation with a client, you're like, I might not be able to help you. How many people are going that route and actually presenting that to whoever they're talking to because they assume that their product and their solution is for everybody?
Not enough. Not enough. Because everybody wants this in their minds. They think that if they decline a client or if that they say no to a client, that they're missing on opportunities. They think that, because they're thinking with their pocketbook.
Oh, yeah.
They're thinking with, their what's right for them. Now, right off the bat, to me, somebody that says, hey, you know what? This is just as much of an interview for you as it is for me. All of a sudden, the mentality switches, right? No, not only for you, but for the potential client.
Yeah.
Because now the person says, well, wait, hold on. Why are you interviewing me? I'm the one looking for a coach, right? And it's, for lack of better terms, it's a mind fuck.
Yeah.
But this is not something to use to take advantage of people, but it does automatically differentiate you.
Yeah.
Because now they realize, wow, no wonder why somebody wants to work with you, or why so many people trust you, and why I was referred to you. Because you can be selective.
Yeah.
Because I promise you, I don't know if you've seen this video on TikTok. This guy, you know how they like fall off the
I think you shot
pick
that.
up on the trampolines. And anyway, this guy was talking about the path to entrepreneurship, and the goal of getting to the top was how many times did he fall down and have to rise back up, right? And so the same thought process too is, if you take on some of these clients that are not a great fit because you didn't do your due diligence, because you led with what was good for what you thought your pocketbook, rather than what was good for your time, what was good for your family and the decisions that are impacted, or whoever you spend your time with, wherever you go to, you are now taking time away from that because you didn't vet and you didn't take the time up front. Instead, you just said yes. And what does that do for you? That creates so many more headaches. You've got the client you've got to deal with, who now you perceive to be a problem. It's a time waster, quote unquote. How many people have you heard say, man, I think if I could, I would go back and I wouldn't take that client?
Well,
or they say, oh, I have that client, but I got to deal with it because it's a lot of income.
It's one of those things because it's like the bottom line of the money situation. Let's think about the money, and that's all that's ever thought about. But it's like, are we playing the long-term game? Because if this isn't a good fit, like, you're going to stress yourself out. You're going to stress out that client. And so I think it's kind of interesting because we know people that are launching podcasts. And it's interesting to see the guests that they have come on their podcast, and it's that inner circle that they have, and it's people that they know. And I think it's a comfort factor. But if you really want to have an engaging conversation, you really need to bring people in that's not part of your normal circle, that is going to challenge you. And I think maybe I did highlight it on the last episode. I don't remember, but the Jay Shetty quote of, find people to be part of your circle that will champion for you, but also challenge you, because you don't want that echo chamber. You don't want the yes man, yes woman. But a lot of times the comfort factor and not really being comfortable with the unknown.
I think there's two different factors that play into that. Obviously, you don't want to have all yes men or women, right? You want to have somebody that challenges the way that maybe you go about something, or the way that you think. You do want people who disagree with you, because it allows you to see full perspective and full view. there is also a piece where, of course, you're going to go and utilize your tribe to help you because that's who you trust. Those are the people who support you. But when you stay only in your tribe, is I think when you run into the issue of what you're talking about of seeing the same thing, the same people doing this, and I'm gonna use and put this term out there, and people are going to be offended.
It's okay. You don't get to choose.
No,
who's
I
going to
just
get offended.
I'm just going to tell you because you are going to be disgusted when you hear it. It is called business incest. You're laughing, but think about it. There are so many people that operate off of this business incest and refuse. I know. But when you hear that, all of a sudden you feel disgusting.
Yeah.
Right? But think about it. How many opportunities are you missing if you're not mentoring, if you're not guiding new people, right? How many opportunities are you missing because you automatically shut somebody down because of where they were at when you first met them or where you were at, right? So if you're not open to welcoming those doors again, if you automatically discredit people because they started on a journey and maybe they've grown, but because of your one interaction.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the term speaks for itself, right?
It just makes me laugh.
I know, but when there are going to be people who hear this and they're going to be like, that's foul.
Yeah.
Right. But so is maybe your business plan. So is maybe your business model, because if you stay with the same people for years, and I'm not saying that you can't have loyalty.
Yeah.
Right. But the nature of us as human beings is that we have to work really hard at relationships.
Yeah.
Most relationships are not long-term. And the ones that are, you've spent a lot of time to cultivate that.
Yeah.
Right? Even think of how many people who haven't talked to their parents, who haven't talked to their siblings in years, months. They don't even live in the same city. And then you got some people where they just talk every single day.
Yeah.
Right? That's hard work to put that in. And so can you really think that you're going to work with somebody for the next 30 years, for the next 10 years? Hell, even for the next 2 years. So when you think about what the long-term play is, yes, you should be warm and you should be welcoming to new ideas, new people. You can have the same relationships that you had with previous people.
Yeah.
But understand too that most people are also climbing the same ladder that you are. They are also meeting new people along the way. And so for you to sit there and hold somebody back to say, but it's just you and me.
Yeah.
We grew up in this together, blah, 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 right? Like, when it was us against the world, when business mom and dad when odds were against us, we only had each other. Like, no, stop the incest and learn to embrace new relationships.
Yeah, and I think that's important though, because it opens up the ability to find new ideas, find new approaches, but that's also being open-minded to go and push your own boundaries, to push your own belief system, because a lot of times people won't question their belief system. They'll just run with it. And then they end up finding those individuals that match their belief system. And then they kind of push off the people that maybe rub them the wrong way or doesn't present as they would. And then you miss out on a whole opportunity really for that growth piece, because the challenges are there to push you.
Well, yes, I agree wholeheartedly. I think there's certain parts too where people don't realize that people are repeating the things that are relevant to them in that moment.
Yeah.
Right? You may be going through a struggle and you're constantly saying things like, I can't seem to get caught up, or I'm just having some troubles with this particular client, right? And it's you're trying to word it, you're trying to differentiate it because you don't want to say I have a problem. You don't want people to know that I'm struggling. You don't want people to understand that you're a human being and that you're on 100% of the time. Everyone already knows you're not.
Yeah.
Because nobody is.
Sure.
Right? You can show up and be the best for 100 days, let's just say, and on the 101st day, maybe you're not even in that 50 percentile, right? Maybe you're in the bottom 10. That is okay.
Yeah.
You know, we always use sports as, a comparison, but man, Steph Curry can take 30 shots and make 13, and then the next night he can be 24 of 26, and nobody's going to question if he's still a damn good player, possibly one of the greatest to play. Nobody's questioning him night in and night out, no matter how good or how bad he's shooting, because he's proven that he will do it time and time again, and he can do it in the clutch. So, give yourself some grace. It's crazy to think that this misconception that we're putting out there that, yes, I'm the perfect dude all the time in my business. I hit the mark, that I don't struggle with my kid or my wife or my family or even my business troubles. But social media tells me I need to post the content of all the things that are clean.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, get dirty.
Yep.
But, here's the crazy part, too. When you are willing to be vulnerable, when you are willing to cross that line that other business owners are not, that other entrepreneurs are not, guess who's going to flourish?
The person that's showing up.
Because it's real.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting, though, because the other conundrum you might get into is with the content. It's like, I've already talked about this 7-8 times. But the thing is, like, it takes some time, and you'll have potential people that find your content, and maybe they haven't seen the previous information. And so this could be the first time that they're coming across your content, and it may be the message that they need. But if you're worried about the idea of, I've already spoken on this 10 times, you're going to potentially miss out on somebody that needs your message because of that judgment piece and saying, I've already talked on this multiple times.
I think what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and create our own niche for coaching. And we're just going to be the you suck coaches. And I'm going to tell you the very worst things ever in that very first conversation. And you're going to hate me and you're going to walk away. And then you can go talk to Scott immediately after that, and he'll tell you all the things of, well, you've already heard all the worst things, so you can only go up from here. Because this is the mentality that we live in, right? We want this huge praise for all the small and really all the things that you should be doing on a day-to-day basis, right? And for the first time ever, it's the Truman Show for every single person in the world, right? And for some reason, certain industries certainly feel like that they deserve a lot more than what they put in there. But essentially, I mean, this is your day-to-day life. You should be doing those things. You shouldn't need the praise and the highlight to be able to go and take your client to an open house. You shouldn't need the praise to show that your client bought a vehicle from you. You shouldn't need to post the social media aspect that that you cleaned a floor. But from the visual aesthetic, it is very pleasing. It's, because of whatever that person who's seeing it is going through. Right? It is very satisfying to watch a bunch of things go on a crusher on TikTok and just watch it get decimated. Right? But if you think about that, how many of those things are things that are really eating at us from the inside? Right? So because I am in a professional setting, quote unquote, and I spend so much time having these conversations in a professional manner, I think for me, watching that crusher, watching the things get destroyed are like the things that I want to say. But it is a way of being able to release and to be able to vent and all those things. So for the first time ever, like I said, being in that everybody's in this Truman Show. It is a rat race in itself to stay relevant. It's a rat race in itself to get the likes and the hearts and the comments and the interaction. Part of it is good business. But most people are doing it unintentionally. Most people don't treat this as if I have an opportunity to serve somebody. They're not treating it as if I post this, that I could be vulnerable, but I could also lead a client, get a client, or I could inspire somebody else to take action. Most of it is, I'm posting because I know I need to stay relevant.
I think it's the relevancy stuff, but you can only do so much on that one. And that's where you gotta find different ways to stand out.
It comes down to, where's your validation come from? Is your validation in hearts and likes?
A lot of people are though.
Is your validation in how many followers you have?
Yeah, it's all the vanity metrics. And so that's why I think it seems the flip with Gary Vee and what he preaches now and what he highlights is such a unique, like that whole pivot situation for him now where it's getting away from the vanity and like you don't see him really cussing as much now than what he was doing before. But it's the growth and the journey piece that we all go on.
Well, here's something that no, I've never seen anybody highlight. Gary Vee doesn't use high-end technology to get his content out there. He is very consistent in using a cell phone or having somebody use their phone. Have you ever seen Grant Cardone use a cell phone in his videos? Never.
I don't think so.
Gary is not afraid to just use what is there.
Yeah.
He's not afraid to jump on different platforms. He's not afraid to say, fuck, I don't want to go into real estate like everyone else. What I love is that, like, man, you watch his TikTok videos when he's got like somebody's background behind him, like their Instagram page or the numbers or an article, and he's like coming in and out of the green screen.
Yep.
You know, because he's not using a green screen.
Yeah.
He's literally just using whatever the app offers, right? A lot of times he's in these circles and he's walking and these people and you see them just like record.
Yep.
And so this is really the true version of when we say go out and just do it.
Yeah.
Just hit the record button on your phone. It doesn't matter how good or how bad the quality is. It's really how good or bad is the content of what you're putting out there. And if you realize that people are judging that, you know, you're going to have some people say, oh man, your camera sucks. Well, hey, I'm working with what I got, right? But guess what? The guy who's also commenting that says your camera sucks, guess what? Because of his comment, you just now saw your post increase to at least 10 to 15 other people's feed.
Yeah.
Right. And now other people are going to come in and be like, you know what? I didn't care about the camera or the, you know, whatever. Now I see what you're about. I'm a fan.
Yeah.
Let me hit that like button, subscribe. What else you got? I can't wait to hear you what the next thing.
Yeah.
And so, yes, it is a great feeling when you have higher likes, when you have content that is hitting, but it is so much more rewarding when somebody says, you know what? Keep up what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, I think also when you think about that with these heavy hitters and these quick hitters that some people get, they're not ready for that growth piece. They're not ready for what's to come. And it's very interesting because content is profit. The brothers on there were talking about the fact that for podcasting, you have everything that you need already. You have your phone, the mic and all that. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just put it out there. But think about how many people limit themselves because they're looking at everybody else and they're comparing themselves. And you're looking at these people that have these high-end studios. They're like, I can't do it because I don't have that.
You don't need it. You don't need it. You don't need it. Get over yourself. You don't need it. Okay. I don't know how many times I have to tell people that, but if you're listening, repeat after me. I don't need high-end equipment to be effective. I don't need the best equipment to be effective. I just need to go out and do it. Get over yourself because, trust me, you're not that important, right? No matter how big, if you think that you are in the story, you are one of billions of people, okay? Now with that, because we're on even ground now, right? And you pull yourself back down, you know, gravity setting back in, realize now that you have an entire world of billions of people that can now listen to your content because you brought yourself down.
Yeah. Well, I think so. I've talked about this on the last episode, the listening app, and it's one of the interesting things because I was actually playing on the app, and you can go on there, go to these different podcasts, and clip things that really resonated with you, and then you're able to put a description and all that. So it's an interesting thing because as the communities build on this platform to see what resonates with different people, it will be very interesting to actually start seeing those clips that pop up and really being able to track what are those things that you're speaking on, what are those things that you're saying that really hits heavy for somebody, or it could be this clip right here is the stupidest thing ever. Why would they talk about this? What is going on here? But it does allow you to give your own perspective and whatnot.
Business incest.
Mm.
I'm putting it out there. Someone's gonna come across this and be like, "What the hell is this?"
Yeah. Well, the app, and I'll put a link because we do have a link on there. It's Podopolo, Podopolo. So very interesting and whatnot. But I think it's gonna be a game changer for that
Oh,
to
I think
be
it's a Podopolo.
something of that
Polo,
polo, yeah, Podopolo.
Podopolo.
But
Marco
yeah,
Polo.
yeah.
Got it, yeah.
So it's an interesting thing, but it's a very unique approach. And so I know we're supposed to have a conversation with them on Monday, kind of get more insight on the platform and see what it will do. But they're trying to help increase the reach and the overall capability to reach a different community and whatnot. So it'll be interesting on what comes out of this.
Yeah. I want to shift a little bit to something here because, a lot of times the conversations they kind of formulate going through. So a lot of time and thought has been pieced together by sleepless nights on this topic. And
Oh yeah, is this also when you're up at like 2 or 3 in the morning?
Sometimes some of it's just, like, how a lot of times people ask you something and you want to formulate the perfect answer, but then you're like, you know what? We just don't have time for this today because of many reasons.
Or is it the flip side where you're like, shit, I should have given this response, and then 6 hours later it pops up for you. You're like, that's the response I wanted to give.
Right. Yeah, you're like, thanks, Zuck. He could have given that to me in the algorithm earlier. No, but seriously, when that question comes up to me of, well, how did you build this?
Mm.
How do you even get started? Right? Like when someone's like, oh, well, you do so many things. How do you keep up? Where do you find the time? Blah, blah, blah. And ultimately I had a real honest answer when I went to lunch this past week. And I think that it was the first time that it made sense to me too, right? And honestly, like growing up, I watched my dad take a lot of side hustles, a lot of side jobs. For him, work was his outlet, having to raise 3 damn kids in the house by himself. Like, I get it now. As a father, I'm like, babe, when you coming home?
Yeah.
Right? And there's certain days like, it's not that I pawn my kid off to my wife. We have plenty of father Sundays and, we have family nights. But there are just certain days when you're at capacity. And I'm sure raising 3 of us, almost, I think we're all teenagers at the household at one point together, that he was at capacity a lot.
Oh, okay.
Right. I also know how wild I was, running around the damn house. Like I used to run into the couch and throw my body into it just because I could. And then I would take off and run down the hallway and come back and do it again. And I would do that for hours. Right. For no apparent reason other than the fact that just hear the thud of the couch hit the wall.
The noise.
Yeah. Man, my brother used to like WrestleMania me, like he was Undertaker the
Andre the Giant?
Ultimate Warrior, and lift me above his head and just drop us. Right. Like I remember he used to love playing pranks. So I remember my sister's room and my room were adjacent. So he would tie like a jump rope. So when one door opened, it closed the other one.
Oh yeah.
It was all kinds of stuff that like you it's not like the iPads and stuff like that. Yeah, we had a Nintendo, but we had a Sega Genesis, but it wasn't the same as kind of like the time spent outside and with people. I mean, but ultimately what I'm saying is like this thought of how do you get started on a side hustle? How do you get started on transitioning careers or getting to, taking that leap? And ultimately, I think that you have to really just realize that where you're headed is going to be the same direction that you're at now. You basically have one single line if you stay stagnant. That is truly the definition of stagnant. So your pay is probably going to be within a range. Right. In fact, your position or your title, if you're working a 9 to 5, probably has a range of pay,
Yeah.
right? Meaning that you cannot exceed that amount unless you go to a different level.
Well, and then you'll also see some of these people that get extra responsibilities, but the pay doesn't ever increase with it
Correct.
too. And
Correct.
so I think, and we've talked about it, like if you're comfortable in a 9 to 5 and that's who you are, love it, embrace it, but understand the cap that happens here. And so it's a very interesting thing when you look at that.
Correct. So when you look at that graph bar, right? If you're in this range and you're slowly escalating every year, what happens then when you hit that flat line, right?
Yeah.
Again, you're capping that ceiling versus somebody who has the ability to pick and choose where they spend their time, how they do that, and now are uncapped. Yes, it may look crazy. I mean, you may see more dips before you see the peaks.
Yeah.
But eventually they will surpass you, right? Yeah. So that's one identifier right off the bat of is not only how you go about doing something, but realizing that you are no longer capped. That's a huge benefit for most people. It's a game changer, right?
Well, I think when you think about that though too, if somebody gets into that realm that they start finding things that will allow them not to be capped, what does that do for them when they're building that legacy, when they're putting out what they want to have left on earth when they're gone? But I think that's also somebody that has that different thought process, because a lot of times somebody that is comfortable and likes their 9 to 5, there's not a lot of creativity there. And so it's harder to think outside the box, to do some things differently. And so I think that's also where you come across these individuals that are doing big things and creating the legacy because of having that uncapped mindset.
So I would reword that. I wouldn't say that there's limited creativity, because it's just that creativity doesn't do well being in a box, right? So those who are very creative will not survive very long in that corporate setting because they're constantly being told what to do, and that conflicts with who they are and the creative mind. Now, business solutions coming outside the box, you can still be that in that 9 to 5 realm, and that's where you see a lot of successful people, right? That's where you see people who are innovative within that business realm or in that corporate setting, and those people tend to fly through the ladders pretty quickly. But there's so many different mitigating factors that people don't talk about. Education.
No.
You can be capped and not go next level for simply not having a degree or years experience. But how are you supposed to get those years experience if you can't go next level?
It's such a crazy thing when you think about that though too. It's like you need the experience, but we're not gonna give you an opportunity. And it's one of these things that people will be like, well, here's statistics, here's the numbers. And I'm like, okay, I understand it's hard to argue with numbers, but there are outliers. There are things that will buck that trend. And so it's like you can't be hard pressed on trying to have the numbers protect you. That's not how this works. Like, we're human. Humans are unique creatures.
So here's the thing that what bothers me the most about the corporate world. Okay. Again, if you love it, great. Honestly, I'm jealous in a lot of ways, because if I could just go and work a 9 to 5 and shut down and just leave work at work, I would be so happy on some days. But I'm not knocking you for being in that realm or enjoying that. In fact, I envy it in so many ways. But here is a concept that is going to blow people out of the water, right? And honestly, I hope somebody steals it, and runs with it sooner rather than later. But what pisses me off about the corporate world is that they pick and choose and fit it so that way it still boxes people in to fit the goal of the business side with the shareholders, right? And what I mean by that is they can set goals for you, right? And they have these SMART goals or whatever of these different ideas of goals that they have. But then it became, well, now it's a race against yourself, right? So that way we didn't make people feel inferior, right? Then there's, well, hey, we will help you get a college degree, right? But until then, you're still not eligible to rank up, even though you're willing to go and work on yourself and do all that. But by proving that you're willing to go to school and get the education and still do this job very well, where we're still continuously applying more work on you, only then will you have proven to us that maybe you're eligible to break this cap. Mentorship. Oh my God. You assign one person to 25 different people in the call centers.
Yeah.
And you expect somebody to, for 1 hour a week after you sit there and talk about all the things that they did negatively or all the things that they could have improved upon, but then expect to highlight the one thing that maybe they did good on that phone call and take that and be enough for them to go into the rest of the week.
Yeah.
No, that is not how we take care of people. That is us taking care of the entity, the enterprise, right? Imagine if you go to work and your first day of orientation, somebody says, hey, we actually have a mentor for you assigned already. If it's not a great fit, you let us know. But this person is actually serves in leadership, and his goal is really to make you feel comfortable so you know somebody here. But also, this is somebody who's been here that is striving and doing very well, and we want you to learn from them. Whatever you decide to do moving forward, whatever your career path is, if you decide to stay with the company long term, you will at least have gained the mentorship and the knowledge to be successful at the next level. You will now have gained insight. But guess what? If I'm getting that, and that's my first day, and I'm going through, and I'm saying this guy's thriving, and he was in my shoes not too long ago, I have a big buy-in into the company.
Yeah.
I have a big buy-in into, well, how long did it take you to get there? Oh, 3 years? Shoot, man, maybe I can do that in 3 years, right?
Yeah.
It's a whole different process. And now it's not, oh, well, I have to stay because benefits. I have to stay long enough to get my bonus, right? Instead, it's like, no, I'm staying because I'm getting mentorship, and I've never had that anywhere else in the world.
Yeah. Well, I think it's an interesting thing because you'll have some individuals that end up becoming what's known as dream managers. But I think you still have a lot of companies that still are lacking in that spot, really talking to the employees, finding what drives them, and helping them go achieve these things outside of work. Because if you have people that are having this buy-in for them as an individual and helping them go after these dreams, things are going to be completely different because they're going to be hungry by going and achieving things outside of the work life, but they know that somebody does truly care about them and trying to help them out. But I think it's one of those things too, that bringing somebody that's outside of the company to fill that role, because you don't have somebody that's got the rose colored glasses on and they drank the Kool-Aid.
Dude, I'm shaking my head. Yes, absolutely. A million times I'm like headbanging over here with a yes on that, because the number one thing of where most employees struggle is it's a safety net. But most of them, and again, my background is in call center experience, so this is where a big portion of my mind and my heart goes to, is most people work in a setting that they don't feel safe. They don't feel safe enough to give you honest feedback. They don't feel safe enough to go to that swinging door or that open door policy that you may have or have said that you've had but never really showcased. And so when you talk about these things and you try to promote these things, how many town halls, how many meetings have you gone to with these people? And at the end of the presentation, does anybody have any questions? And you get crickets. Right? But as soon as you go back home, after you presented at this, you have millions of questions of emails of people because they were afraid to ask you during the meeting.
I have to laugh at that because coming from the military, when you have commanders call and whatnot, you'll have people that will ask questions, but then everybody's pissed at them because the commander's call has gone so long. And now you have people asking questions, and you get people that are giving them the death stare because they're like, I'm sick and tired of this. let's move forward. So it is a very interesting dynamic when you see the differences and whatnot. But I have to laugh because there's always memes and whatnot, and then like there's different individuals that have retired from the military, and you see them make sketch or comedy sketches and whatnot, and you just start laughing. You're like, yep.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Like, I hate to feel like that I'm becoming my father in so many ways, but it is the most cliche thing. But when you truly think about it, this thing is single-handedly the thing that stuck out the most to me growing up is my dad had two dadisms that have really stuck out. The first one says you don't know anything because you don't do anything. That still hurts today when I think about that, but it's so true,
Yeah.
right? The more that you go and explore the world, the more that you have the opportunity to learn. But the other one is the truth makes you laugh or cry. And when you hear honest truths, you watch people's reactions.
Yeah.
They will either break down in tears because they're finally facing what they've been hiding for a long time, or they can only laugh because they then realize what you're saying to them is so true, and that is their only reaction to it. Very few people will stare at you blank in the face with an empty look to be like, no, that's not true. No, they will either start breaking down or they will start laughing their way to figure it out. When was the last time that a corporate office was forced to make themselves laugh or cry about a situation?
Hardly ever.
Because on the surface level, they can do everything, but they don't really want to rock the boat too much, right? And if they truly wanted feedback, why would they send surveys and polls through emails or through a link rather than having a third party come and say, hey?
It's because they can control that.
Because they can always tie it back to figure out who said what.
Yep.
And they can then rid of the problem solver or problem makers or the people who are truly trying to make impact or raise noise and things like that. And to them, that is not okay.
And such a sad thing when you think about that, but it is what it is. That's where, as entrepreneurs, individuals that are doing big things, you just make the culture shift, you make the change.
But here's the crazy part, right? I'm an entrepreneur talking about these things for the people in this 9 to 5. I'm the one having this conversation for them. Why do they not have an advocate? Why is nobody standing up and sticking up for them in the corporate world? Something to think about, guys. I'm just saying.
Yeah, no, very true. It's one of those things that I think it's just you gotta stand for something. And if you're gonna go rock the boat, okay, here we go. But if you can stand firm and you can take the punches, I think people respect you more for that by doing that, even though a lot of times it doesn't happen.
You know what? I'm gonna put this out there. I am willing to go on a year-long journey with major companies.
Yeah.
I will sit there with your frontliners. I will teach them the skill sets that I know to make them better. I will teach your leadership in terms of how to really bridge that gap. And it's not by being a friend, but it's also not by being a stern dictator.
Yeah.
I will go and sit with your operations and the decision makers and the higher ups, and I will go through your HR, and I will be able to point out all the things that you could do that would make you much more profitable. Now, you may think that you have all those things in place, right? And that you've had people who work the corporate ladder and who love the company. Here's the thing is I'm not really against corporate, right? There are a lot of people who support their families working a 9 to 5 job, and I love that. What I don't love is that there are a lot of people who are suffering mental health because they're tied and don't have many options because they've been suppressed in opportunity because they didn't have a degree. They've been suppressed in opportunity because they never had access to mentorship. They've been suppressed because they've never seen what the next level up is, so they're not inspired.
Yeah.
I will go on this journey with you to pinpoint exactly, and I will help you turn morale around. I will help you build a culture that will make sure that people want to go there, and I will instill more opportunities for you as leadership to maintain and retain, but also find hidden gems to go into those next leadership roles and sustain your company for the long term.
No, I think that's huge just because it's a different perspective. It's a clean slate because you have somebody coming out from outside the organization that's not been jaded, that doesn't have that I have to have loyalty towards the corporation and whatnot. Like, this is huge because it's given a different perspective. It's getting a fresh set of eyes in there. And that's the thing. Sometimes you become center to the everything and you don't see what you need to see. And so by having that outside perspective, it really does help out because it opens up stuff that you're blind to because you're centered in that storm.
Yeah, and I think people just need to realize that people's career paths, it's not a marriage. They don't have to be there till death does them apart.
Yeah.
And if people knew that, if people treated it as such, and if people were taught that, honestly, might build a higher following and a higher retention rate by letting people know we are setting you up for success for whatever that next level is. And we've talked about this all the time. How many times have people become entrepreneurs out of spite instead of out of love or appreciation? I promise you, the guy that comes and says, you know what, this blank corporation or business gave me all the necessary tools and training to be able to go ahead and launch this. In fact, they're a partner because I trusted them so much and they helped me with the funding. But I owe them in so many ways.
True. Yeah. Well, this is this. It goes back to the whole episode is the conversation piece, the power of conversation. What is the ideal route, or what's the reason for the conversation taking place?
Right.
And so, hopefully, as legacy ninjas are listening to this, they start auditing and they start looking at the conversations that they're having with themselves, with other people, and really seeing if there's an adjustment that needs to be made or whatever can help them level up to that next level.
Absolutely. And I almost feel like that we should upgrade and maybe change from legacy ninjas to the legacy warriors, because ninjas have a tendency to be silent, make be unknown, unseen, and still complete the task. But really, who are appealed to and who we're speaking to are the legacy warriors, the movers and shakers, the ones who want to actually go and do something different. And I feel like that if you are listening to this podcast and you've made it this far, that you've probably made it this far because something resonates, because you're feeling a certain way, because you're maybe wavering on terms of how do I go next level.
Yeah.
And I would encourage you to seek out and just talk to local entrepreneurs and business owners.
No, I think it is one of those things that when you look at it, it's the pivot piece. So ninjas are in the background in the shadows trying not to be seen or heard and whatnot. And when you think about that warrior piece, they're loud. They will go and
they run into battle head first.
Cause destruction wherever it needs to be. Sometimes they're a bull in a china shop, which that's where I follow perfectly there. So I think it's you can see just even with the show and the episodes and what we have, it's just that switch. And so it is one of those things that it can happen right on the spot, which right now I guess we're flipping over from ninjas now to warriors, which I think it's huge.
Yeah, well, nothing, obviously a good army is going to have bit of both, right? You got your frontliners, you got your backliners, you got, even our military can't thrive off just one. That's why we have the different branches. And happy Veterans Day to all those who have served and are serving. But, I think when we look at essentially the shift, really sitting, we're providing gold for people. We're thought-provoking, I think, for a lot of people who are listening. And maybe you've been a ninja. Maybe you've been sitting here in the shadows listening and thinking, you know what, maybe I'm not going to message those guys, or maybe I'm not going to hit the follow on this up because maybe it was too real.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe it was just what you needed to hear for the moment. We're thankful no matter what. But what you have to do at some point is you have to dig deep and take a look really in the mirror. You have to look at kind of what you're made of. And you have to see if you're willing to take a chance on who you are.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that if you are on the cusp, or if you're in that situation, maybe it's worth having a conversation as well.
Yeah. So if you do want to have a conversation, go ahead and send us an email at twonativesons@gmail.com. We have a new email address, but we're still trying to remember what that is. So if you want to have a conversation or there's something coming up, send us an email. let's just have a conversation to help you excavate or dig through, because as an individual, all this garbage is piled up, or you're centered to the storm and it's hard to see outside of that. So by just having the conversation, it does open up to be able to look at things differently. So like I said, send us an email at twonativesons@gmail.com. Let's have the conversation and let's help you move forward and make a bigger impact of what you want to create and what you want to see.
I'll jump in the pool with you. Let's go.
So other than that, we enjoy allowing us to be on your journey, to be here with you. And we'll catch you on the next episode. Our Legacy Warriors, let's go out and make some noise.